Good morning, students. Today, my topic is History Lesson 3, the Delhi Sultans. You know that Delhi is the capital of India, but who made it its capital first of all? Delhi first became the capital of a kingdom under the Tomara Rajputs, who were defeated in the middle of the 12th century by Chauhans. They are also called as Chahamanas, and they were belonging to Ajmer. It was under the Tomaras and Chauhans that Delhi became an important commercial center. Many rich Jaina merchants lived in the city and constructed several temples. Coins minted here, called Delhi Wal, had a wide circulation. The transformation of Delhi into a capital that controlled vast areas of the subcontinent started with the foundation of Delhi Sultanate in the beginning of 13th century. The rulers who come under the category of Delhi Sultans, they were first of all Rajput dynasties. Under Rajput dynasties, there were Tomaras. They were in early 12th century from 1165. Then Anangapala. They ruled from 1130 to 1145. Then Chauhans ruled from 1165 to 1192, and Prithviraj Chauhan ruled from 1175 to 1192. Then comes early Turkish rulers who ruled from 1206 to 1290. First ruler was Qutbuddin Aibak, who ruled from 1206 to 1210. Then Shamsuddin Iltutmish, who ruled from 1210 to 1236. Then Razia Sultan, she ruled from 1236 to 1240. Then Ghiyasuddin Balban, 1266 to 1287. Then comes the Khalji dynasty, which ruled from 1290 to 1320. First ruler was Jalaluddin Khalji, who ruled from 1290 to 1296. Then Alauddin Khalji, who ruled from 1296 to 1316. Then comes the Tughlaq dynasty, which ruled from 1320 to 1414. First ruler was Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, who ruled from 1320 to 1324. Muhammad Tughlaq, who ruled from 1324 to 1351. Then Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 1351 to 1388. Then comes the Sayyid dynasty, which ruled from 1414 to 1451. Main ruler was Khizr Khan, who ruled from 1414 to 1421. Then lastly, Lodi dynasty, which ruled from 1451 to 1526. Main ruler was Behlol Lodi, who ruled from 1451 to 1489. 4 stages in the making of a manuscript. First stage was preparing the paper. Second stage was writing the text. Third was melting gold to highlight important words and passages. And fourth stage was preparing the binding. What is Tarikh or Twarikh? Firstly, definition. Chronicles written by scribes or time, that is a singular term, or Twarikh, that is a plural term. During this period, origin of the term. Tarikh is an Arabic word meaning history or historiography. Language which was used, it was written in Persian. It was the language of administration in the Delhi Sultanate. Who were the authors? The authors of Twarikh were learned men, secretaries, administrators, poets, and courtiers. What was the life of authors? They lived in cities and wrote histories for the sultans, expecting rich rewards in return. Advice. They recounted events and advised rulers on governance, emphasizing the significance of just rule, the need to preserve an ideal social order. What was the viewpoint of them? According to them, an ideal social order was based on birthright and gender distinctions. The meaning of birthright: privileges claimed on account of birth. Gender distinction: social and biological differences between women and men. Razia Sultan. Razia became Sultan in 1236. She was the daughter of Iltutmish, but most of the people could not accept a woman as a ruler. Most of the nobles in the Sultanate were not happy at her attempts to rule independently. As a result, she could remain the ruler only for about 4 years and was removed from the throne in 1240. From garrison towns to empire, the expansion of Delhi Sultanate. Important terms are hinterland, the land adjacent to a city or port that supplied with goods and services is called hinterland. Then garrison town, a fortified settlement with soldiers was called as garrison towns. In the early 13th century, the control of the Delhi Sultans really went beyond heavily fortified towns occupied by garrisons. The sultans seldom controlled the hinterland of the cities and were therefore dependent upon trade, tribute, or plunder for supplies. Controlling garrison towns in distant Bengal and Sindh from Delhi was extremely difficult. Rebellion, war, and even bad weather could snap fragile communication routes. Delhi's authority was also challenged by Mongol invasions from Afghanistan and by governors who rebelled at any sign of the Sultan's weakness. The Sultanate barely survived these challenges. Its expansion occurred during the reigns of Ghiyasuddin Balban, Alauddin Khalji, and Muhammad Tughlaq. The first set of campaigns along the internal frontier of the Sultanate aimed at consolidating the hinterlands of the garrison towns. During these campaigns, forests were cleared in the Ganga-Yamuna Doab and hunter-gatherers and pastoralists expelled from their habitat. These lands were given to peasants and agriculture was encouraged. New fortresses and towns were established to protect trade routes and to promote regional trade. The second expansion occurred along the external frontier of the Sultanate. Military expeditions into southern India started during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and culminated with the Muhammad Tughlaq. In their campaigns, Sultanate armies captured elephants, horses, and slaves and carried away precious metal. The masjid. A mosque is called a masjid in Arabic, literally a place where a Muslim prostrates in reverence to Allah. In a congregational mosque, that is Masjid al-Jami or Jama Masjid, Muslims read their prayers, that is namaz, together. Members of the congregation choose the most respected, learned male as their leader. He is called as the Imam for the ritual of prayer. He also delivers the sermon, that is khutbah, during the Friday prayer. During prayer, Muslims stand facing Makkah. In India, this is to the west. This is called the Qibla. The Delhi Sultans built several mosques in cities all over the subcontinent. These demonstrated their claims to be protectors of Islam and Muslims. Mosques also helped to create the sense of community of believers who shared a belief system and a code of conduct. It was necessary to reinforce this idea of community because Muslims came from a variety of backgrounds. Let's learn certain terms. First term is Bandagan, slaves purchased for military service by Delhi Sultans. Iqta, Khaljis and Tughlaq appointed military commanders as governors of territories of varying sizes. These lands were called Iqtas. Mukti or Iqtadar. The holders of Iqta was called Mukti or Iqtadar. The duty of the Muktis was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their Iqtas. In exchange for their military services, the Muktis collected the revenues of their assignments as salary. They also paid their soldiers from these revenues. Steps taken to ensure that Muktis perform their duties. First was, their office was not made hereditary. Second, they were assigned Iqtas or land as salaries for a short period of time before being transferred. Third, accountants were appointed to check the amount of revenue collected by the Muktis or Iqtadar. Fourth, Care was taken that the mukti collect only the taxes prescribed by the state and that he kept the required number of soldiers. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. The rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled and they were also forced to pay taxes. The Sultan's administrators measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of the old chieftains and landlords served the Sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. There were three types of taxes on cultivation called kharaj and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce, second on cattle, and third on houses. Account of travelers. Ibn Battuta, the 14th century traveler Ibn Battuta from Morocco or Africa explained that chieftains sometimes fortified themselves in mountains, rocky and uneven places as well as in bamboo groves. The bamboos in India are big and so intertwined that even fire cannot affect them. The chieftains lived inside these and had their cattle and crops also inside these. Water was also available for them in the form of collected rainwater. Hence, it was very tough to subdue them except by strong armies who cut these bamboos on entering these forests. Impact of Mongol invasions on Delhi Sultanate. The Mongols under Genghis Khan invaded Transoxania in northeast Iran in 1219 and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge. Dealing with challenges by Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq. Firstly, Alauddin Khalji. Delhi was attacked twice in 1299 to 1300 and 1302 to 1303. As a defensive measure, Alauddin Khalji raised a standing army. Alauddin constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. The soldiers had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as tax from lands between Ganga and Yamuna. Tax was fixed at 50% of the peasants' yield. The soldiers had to be paid. Alauddin chose to pay his soldiers' salaries in cash rather than iktas. The soldiers would buy their supplies from merchants in Delhi, and it was thus feared that merchants would raise their prices. To stop this, Alauddin controlled the prices of goods in Delhi. Prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful, and chroniclers praised his reign for his cheap prices and efficient supplies of goods in the market. He successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. Then is Muhammad Tughlaq. The Sultanate was attacked in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign. The Mongol army was defeated. Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army and his resources to plan an attack on Transoxania. He therefore raised a large standing army. Rather than constructed a new garrison town, the oldest of the four cities of Delhi, that is Delhi Agna, was emptied of its residents and the soldiers garrisoned there. The residents of the old city were sent to the new capital of Daulatabad in the south. Produce from the same area was collected as tax to feed the army, but to meet the expense of maintaining such a large number of soldiers, the Sultan levied additional taxes. This coincided with the famine in the area. Muhammad Tughlaq also paid his soldiers cash salaries, but instead of controlling prices, he used a token currency, somewhat like present-day paper currency, but made out of cheap metals, not gold and silver. People in the 14th century did not trust these coins. They were very smart. They saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes to the state with this token currency. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. Muhammad Tughlaq's administrative measures were a failure. His campaign into Kashmir was a disaster. He then gave up his plans to invade Transoxania and disbanded his large army. Meanwhile, his administrative measures created complications. This shifting of people to Daulatabad was resented. The raising of taxes and famine in the Ganga-Yamuna belt led to widespread rebellion, and finally the token currency had to be recalled. The Sultanate in the 15th and 16th centuries. After the Tughlaqs, the Sayyid and Lodi dynasties ruled from Delhi and Agra until 1526. By then, Jaunpur, Bengal, Malwa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the entire South India had independent rulers who established flourishing states and prosperous capitals. This was also the period which saw the emergence of new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajputs. Some of the states established in this period were small but powerful and extremely well administered. Sher Shah Suri, that is 1540 to 1555, started his career as the manager of a small territory for his uncle in Bihar and eventually challenged and defeated the Mughal Emperor Humayun. Humayun ruled from 1530 to 1540 and then 1555 to 1556. Sher Shah captured Delhi and established his own dynasty. Although the Suri dynasty ruled for only 15 years, it introduced an administration that borrowed elements from Alauddin Khalji and made them more efficient. Sher Shah's administration became the model followed by the great Emperor Akbar when he consolidated the Mughal Empire. Elsewhere, the three orders, the peace of God, knights, and the crusades. The idea of three orders was formulated in France in early 11th century. It divided society into three classes: those who prayed, those who fought, and those who tilled the land. This division of society into three orders was supported by the church to consolidate its dominant role in society. This helped the emergence of a new warrior group called knights. The church patronized this group and used them to propagate their idea of peace of God. The attempt was to direct warriors away from conflict amongst themselves and send them instead on a campaign against the Muslims who had captured the city of Jerusalem. This led to a series of campaigns called the Crusades. These campaigns in the service of God and the Church completely altered the status of knights. Originally, these knights did not belong to the class of nobles, but by the end of 11th century in France and a century later in Germany, the humble origins of these warriors were forgotten. By the 12th century, nobles also wanted to be known as knights.